Well, as we get closer to the 2017 PFA season, we are still going through the 2016 offseason of last year, and of course, the next phase of the offseason is retirement. Oh boy, what a sad time it is to see players go, especially when they only had 1 year. So I guess at the same time, they didn't really have a year to a long time to make themselves really good star players. But at the same time, it kind of sucks too, especially because a bunch of these retirements are very bad for some of the teams that are going to be affected by this. So anyways, here's the retirements after the 2016 season. This year, it was 7 players, and some on the list are going to be quite surprising. So let's get this list underway. So first up, of course, it's Richard Long of the Oklahoma Oilers. He was a free agent, never drafted at all, and he was brought on to the Oilers because of their 2 injuries for Wiley Chester and Peter Rose very early on this season, which made the Oilers the first team ever to have 3 quarterbacks starting the season. He was 19 of 32 with a 59.4 completion percentage, 261 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a QB rating of 69.9. So, yeah, he didn't really do good in his debut. And at age 39 when he started, he was the oldest quarterback to ever start a game in both Oilers and PFA history. So, age-related plus not doing really good, yeah, it's kind of not surprising he retired, because after that game, both Wiley and Peter got recovered, so Richard never started or played a game again in PFA. And next up is an absolute shocker and disappointment for the Louisville Saints. It's their starting running back, Justin Dowd, who finished his career with 244 attempts, 1,195 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns. He also had 7 receptions for 52 yards, and he did 22 kickoff returns to get 707 yards. And he has all the rushing records in Saints history: most rush attempts in a season and career, most rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. Now, this is really surprising because he's only 27. He's so young still for a running back, and he played the entire season, so he had no injuries that stopped him from playing. But I don't know why he would retire. For some reason, just decided to do so, and that's going to be really bad for the Saints because remember, they are the worst team this year, tied with the Barons. They had the number 1 overall pick, and they told me after Justin retired they were actually going to consider changing the offensive game plan around to be a more running-oriented team. That way it can give him some more time and more better stats as he'd be the leader of the offense, while they possibly get a first-round quarterback as the first overall pick to possibly get used to the system. But now that ruined their plans, so now they're going to have to find out what the hell they're going to do for 2017 at running back. After that, it's Roger Imam of the Boston Destroyers. He was a running back, and he had 234 attempts for 989 yards. That's really bad. Not even 1,000 yards in 18 games. 8 touchdowns. He also had 6 receptions for 81 yards, and he had 22 kickoff returns for 530 yards. And he also has the Destroyers' record in most rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns in both a season and career. Again, he's only 28, so we're having a lot of string of really young running backs retiring really early. But then again, running backs are usually the first players to retire, so I guess that's probably old for them. But damn, not even 30 yet. And of course, he didn't really do that much good. The Boston Destroyers did not have a really good running game this year, so maybe they'll use their high first-round pick on a running back this year. I guess we're going to have to wait and see, because that's like a major hurdle for that offense if they're going to have any shot at making the playoffs in 2017. And next up is going to be a very big disaster for the Hawaii fans, because this is not their only player retiring. They had 2 players retiring, and the last one's going to be even more devastating, but that's going to be last. So first up is Kevin Moser, their running back. He had 233 attempts, 1,046 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. He had 12 receptions for 146 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he got a lot of touchdowns for not so many receptions for a running back. Plus, he had 28 kickoff returns for 770 yards. And he is the Phantoms' leader all time in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. That's going to be pretty bad because he was a solid, productive player for the Hawaii's offensive, since they were not really good whatsoever. Well, not good, but they were really inconsistent. And he was always the most consistent player, although his stats for 18 games, that's not really good. That's going to be a tough loss, but their last loss, that's going to be even worse. And then we finally get the defense, starting with the San Antonio Longhorns, as their cornerback, William Hargrave, retired. He had 45 tackles, 3 picks, and 11 pass defenses. Plus, he had 19 punt returns for just 78 yards. And he's the oldest cornerback to ever start for both Longhorns and PFA history at 37. Matter of fact, he is 3 years older than the next oldest cornerback in the league. So, wow, that's quite impressive. And those stats are pretty solid, too. Although the rest of that Longhorns defense needs a lot of work done. He was not really their best player on defense, so it's probably not going to be that serious of a loss to lose William. And then we go to the Oakland Majors as they lost David Smith, their defensive end, who in 2016 had 52 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and he recovered 1 plus 10 sacks. Not bad for the oldest defensive end in both Majors and PFA history at age 39. Now, that's a kind of a disappointing loss because he was a pretty solid contributor for that really good Oakland defense, although he's not their biggest pressing player on the defense. So they might be able to fix that, but that's going to be a major loss since that offense is so terrible. So now they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do maybe with that first-round pick. Do they try and fix that terrible offense, or do they try and get like one more big piece on that defensive line to possibly have one major defense in 2017? That's going to be quite a difficult choice for them. And last but not least is probably the second biggest loss of the team besides the Louisville Saints losing their running back, and that's Stefan Meyer, their strong safety. He had 68 tackles, which is unbelievable for a free safety, 4 sacks, 2 picks, and 7 pass defense. And plus, at the age of 31, he was the oldest strong safety to ever start in Phantoms history. That's going to be a really big loss since their defense is also, just like their offense, inconsistent. But he was like one of their best players. Although they still got their star linebacker, Wilson Sharp, so that defense is not going to be devastated, but that's going to be a pretty bad problem on that defense, especially since I think their secondary is like their weakest link in that defense. So maybe they'll use that first-round pick on a safety. So that's it for the retirements this year. Wonder what will happen next year as players get an extra year to get their stats better. And of course, I'm hoping to try and get these videos up sooner, but it's a lot of work doing all these videos, plus all my other stuff too. And I'm hoping to eventually soon get another UFL video up soon as possible. And next up for the 2016 PFA offseason will be roster cuts. So tune in for then.